Hello everyone, this is part 13 of What If Naruto Was Abused and Obtained Mokuton, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist. To see more, comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. A 5-star treatment, yet it was apparent, to sleep in this village, they would have to do so with one eye open. The animosity spread like a quick fire. Sasuke's actions on his idea hadn't earned him any favors. Naruto had avoided even going out to the streets to keep himself from laughing at these people. Their reaction was laughable. They were the ones who attacked Konoha, but now that they lost, they started to hate them. Jiraiya's preaching about the circle of hatred was clear in this image. Naruto thought that the Sannin was dreaming too much. A world where people didn't hate each other was just a thing of fantasy. It was in human nature to hate. If you can love, you will hate. Pain caused this much in people. What could be managed was how people reacted in their hatred. Naruto glanced at Sasuke and then back at the streets through the window. He was doing that, but had his eyes closed. Things were normal. But Sasuke was not. The Uchiha was being annoying now that they were done and playing the waiting game. But Naruto wasn't in a hurry. He didn't think Gaara could be saved at this point. Long time has passed since he was taken. We sure are not popular, he said, smiling. What do you expect? Sasuke stood up, walked over to him, hands folded across his chest. Our actions have resulted in them losing their freedom. They live under fear now. Surprising words coming from you. Never thought you'd put yourself in someone's shoes. I don't have to do that. I just have to see things as they are. Sasuke shrugged. But this is something you should be familiar with. After all, it is the same reaction in Konoha, well, in the past anyway. Naruto laughed. You just can't run away from certain things. Certainly, there is that parallel. Reasons are different but the results in the same. Only difference is that these ones can try to kill you if you blink. Indeed. We better be careful, Naruto replied in thought. But really, Suna has no reason to be angry. You cannot attempt to kill someone and then be angry when that person kills you instead. You live by the sword and you die by it. To be a shinobi, you had to be prepared to die, for your village or for those you cared for. People had to be rational in that way. But there was too much of irrationality. People didn't want to accept the consequences of their actions. This was why Sun was going to be ruled by fear and force. They acted, they must live with those actions. Of course, what was happening here was wrong. He would not subject the village to a rule. But this was the shinobi world. Winners wrote history and enjoyed the spoils. The losers wailed and sat in their corners harvesting contempt. Not so long ago, you were saying this was wrong. It listens but does not quite hear. I have a problem with killing innocent people. I have a problem with a needless massacre. You're contradicting yourself. You just said Suna started it. I'm not. Punishment must be appropriate to the crime committed. If you try to kill me and I kill you in defense, that is fair. But if I add to that by then going on to massacre your entire family, that's no longer fair. I know the world isn't fair. It hasn't been fair to me. But I do not function to promote such unfairness. Nor do I take joy in the killing of innocent people. Sasuke was silent for a moments before responding. Either way, there are consequences for one's actions. But it is worth to note that Suna was tricked by Orochimaru. He killed the Kazekage because he would no longer go with this plan. You'd say the village is paying for Orochimaru's actions. I hadn't taken that to mind, must have been so bothered by the odds of wiping out a village, Naruto replied in thoughtful tone. If it was so, then the situation was a little different. Either way, it didn't matter to Danzo. He was making his conquest to conquer the elemental nations known. Suna was just caught in an unfortunate position. What do you think Danzo is going to do with this village? Turn it into a military power. Just for the sake of fighting the battles of Konoha. I assume young ones will be forced into battle. They are going to be tools for Danzo, if the Sandaime doesn't wake up. Sasuke shook his head. It seemed like Danzo had been plotting this all his life. Konoha is already powerful. If it takes over sooner, there will be war. Other villages are not going to stand and we will be responsible. You have an option. You can call all shinobi and then tell them you realize what you did was wrong. Konoha cannot subject you to its will. They are free to select their own cage and you will stay with them. When they say Konoha will come for them, you tell them, Konoha isn't going to do something as suicidal as to travel through the sand to come here when Suna has a sand manipulator and wind uses. The desert will be Konoha's coffin. Only Iwa would dare make such a daring attack. That would be treason. It's not like you care either way. You were willing to abandon Konoha for power. This will make you leader of this village. If you're saying that, how long do you plan on playing this game? You're really not going to follow Danzo's orders forever. Naruto smiled. I'd like to say the same thing to you. Moving rashly isn't going to cut it. Besides, Suna needs to be managed. Konoha can't be seen as weak, Sasuke replied with a shrug. So, my friend, how do we plot to kill Danzo? Before Sasuke could reply, someone knocked at the door. Both turned around and Baki walked in. They had appointed the man as leader. He had the power to command things in the village in this time. There are people here to see you. The man said in a flat tone. Who? People from Iwagakure. Why is Iwa here and after so soon? When we realized we lost the war, we sent a message to Iwa knowing its past relationship with Konoha. That was before you came. Sasuke narrowed his eyes dangerously. So those elders chose to fight us because it was just the two of us and thought if they captured us, they could use us as a gift to Iwagakure. Yes. Baki didn't deny it. There was no point in doing so. After all, it seemed like he was needed to get everyone in line. Naruto shook his head at this. This was dangerous. If Iwagakure was here, then trouble had already started. It was bad. A war could break out at any moment now and they would be used as weapons. That damned Danzo and his shenanigans. How had those elders even come to make this decision anyway? They had just given license for the hidden stone to act. Not that it would have needed any justification. And you've already told them everything. Baki was silent for a couple of seconds. He could have chosen not to do so and even hide these people's presence in the village. But he did not, because he knew Iwa would grow interested, if they weren't already. But he didn't expect Naruto to ask the question. The fact that the blonde had his eyes closed, and emitting a dangerous aura made him think he may have made the wrong decision. Yes, you see what he did, Sasuke. Yes, Iwa wouldn't know anything and if they had stalled and then turned him away, Konoha would have done something to increase its grip in power. The moment we leave, Konoha isn't in control. Iwa can yield to anyone. This was a very smart political move. The Uchiha's eyes turned cold. Let's just kill him and take his head to those of Iwa and tell him to leave. Sasuke said coldly. Naruto smiled. Now, Sasuke. Let us leave this man alone. We must entertain our guests. Naruto was careful not to say anything treasonous in front of Baki in case Konoha managed to get into his head. We will welcome the guests. Where are they? I can bring them here. No, we want somewhere appropriate. I'll make arrangements. Someone will come and fetch you in a couple of moments. Baki said, walking out of the office. What are you playing at, Naruto? If Danzo hears about this quickly, he is likely to either order us to stay here, which I'm not prepared to do. Or he will send shinobi to occupy Suna. It will only fan the flames of war. I wish to delay that a little bit, just until the Sandaime is awake. We don't need to write a report. We can tell Danzo in person when we get to Konoha. If he questions us, we didn't think we had to send a report. We didn't disobey any order. We did what we were told. You want that man to make some moves around you. And you're banking on whether the Sandaime wakes up. What if he doesn't it? And if Danzo is already at this route, do you think he is going to just give up power? Naruto shrugged. He didn't want to think about the possibility that the Sandaime might not wake up. He already doesn't trust both of us. I'm sure there are files that have termed us as flight risks. If he refuses to give up power, it is a civil war which he is going to lose. Naruto paused, turning his face toward Sasuke. He opened his left eye slightly. Do you disagree with me? The Uchiha smirked. Of course. I'm not anyone's tool. I just wanted to make sure you know what you are doing. Sasuke-chan, you know I just don't do things on a whim. This was definitely on a whim. But rational. What now? Let me handle Iwa. Just back me up when you can. At least we now know what kind of a person Baki is. We will see how this people think about Konoha's interests. Minutes later, Kuretsuki was surprised to see the two people who came to Iwa for Chunin exams. Baki hadn't said who exactly Konoha had occupied. She was amused to think that the two alone had made Suna surrender. Then again, one was a Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. It couldn't be the Uchiha. The blonde was the one who didn't bother fighting in the finals. And she had seen reports about his performance in the trials. It was safe to say he'd been the better shinobi out of the two. Now, if she were to kill a Jinchuriki of Konoha, that would surely protect Iwa. No doubt if this wasn't handled carefully, the two were going to war once more. It is not nice thinking of killing someone, the blonde said in a casual tone. His expression was that of an amused one, his eyes closed. The Uchiha was stone-faced. Kuretsuki, if I recall. These two are Naruto Uzumaki and Sasuke Uchiha. Baki said. They were in an empty room. Kuro was sitting in the other side with her company on a futon. Baki was on his feet. I remember seeing the two of you in Iwa, but is it right to accuse me of thinking of killing you in this setting? Naruto settled down, and then motioned for Baki to sit as well. On the sides like a referee. Sasuke settled on his right side. I can tell when someone has negative emotions about me, it is an ability of mine, he smiled mysteriously. Of course, I could be lying. The fact was that she had been thinking about killing him and right now, meant she saw him as an enemy. But Kuretsuki wasn't going to believe such an ability existed. She hadn't heard of it and that was skin to being able to read someone's mind. And you're not even going to look at me. Are you blind? Yes. Stop fooling around, Naruto. Sasuke lectured. Don't be a spoilsport, Sasuke. I'm not allowed to amuse myself. What if I was simply trying to sell false information to a potential enemy? You know you don't dish your ability to see to the enemy. Kuretsuki glared. Naruto was taking a piss at this. He was trying to amuse himself in this situation. There could be war and he was looking for a laugh. I apologize for that. The world is a little violent that I decided to shut my eyes until there is a little bit of peace. Kuretsuki scoffed. Says the person who unleashed violence against Suna. Naruto ignored this and just continued speaking. But I suppose I can afford to look at you. Last time I checked, his eyes opened. And then smiled. Well, let us not make you uncomfortable by making some remarks about your appearance. But I suppose you can tell what I was going to say given the smile on his face. He was still taking a piss. How did you recognize me if you couldn't see how I look like? Kuretsuki asked curiously. Naruto raised his index finger. Chakra. The Nadaime Hokage was said to have been able to identify the nature of a chakra in a person. Without even being told, he could tell. I'm Uzumaki, he is Uchiha, he said, his finger waving towards Sasuke. We all different have chakra signatures. You struck quite the image in Iwa. And I cannot forget your chakra signatures, he smiled, tilting his head slightly. But do you know the best thing? What? It is almost impossible to sneak in behind a blind shinobi. Instincts, the sixth sense, your nose, they all heighten to the point where you can tell if there is a roach crawling within these walls. As interesting as that is, let's cut it short, Kuretsuki said sharply. Mind explaining to me what is happening here? Yes, I mind. Besides, we are certain Baki-san has already dished out the details. What we question is your appearance in this village. Kuretsuki took out a scroll and then threw it at him. We can because the real leaders of this village called us. We do not recognize this thing Konoha is trying to do. I wasn't aware Konoha needed your approval, Kuretsuki-san. But if you want to talk to the leaders, you are free to do so. You killed them. Kuretsuki said a little bit in anger. You invaded another village and are now trying to control it. If it was a smaller nation, we could overlook it. But Suna is one of the Great Five. If Konoha takes over, it upsets the balance of power. And there will be war. In what position are you in to make that war assertion? As a representative of Iwa. Are you forgetting that Suna attacked Konoha? This is the consequence of it. Now what happens after then, your threat of you, we are not authorized to pronounce anything. We had one mission to do and we have done so. But if you are going to declare war, we will take the message back to Konoha. I am however certain that Konoha will not be backing down. From there, we have nothing to say to you. You could have just started with that. Naruto smiled. Now, how would I have gotten a chance to talk to you? He then stood up, turned away from Kuretsuki. Leave the village now, or we will escort you rather quickly. Kuretsuki folded her hands across her chest. I haven't finished talking to you and I want you to try that. Use force to make me leave this village. Naruto stopped, raised an index and looked back at Kuretsuki through the corner of his eyes. Sasuke left the room after this. What followed them was impressive display of chakra. Naruto released a potent level of chakra that cracked the floor and the walls of the room, causing dust to fall. The violent chakra forced Kuretsuki to slam her hands on the floor, coated with chakra for grip before the chakra could blow her away. I would rather not provoke a Wagaku in such a manner. That is why I made a request, which I hope you comply with. That was just ridiculous. All he did was raise his chakra. How could someone so young have so much chakra? Jinchuriki had massive levels of chakra, but this was ridiculous. He didn't need the Kyuubi. On his own, this Naruto was deadly. He was really an enemy of a Wagaku. Such a person would only prove to be a thorn in their side. Kuretsuki put on an expressionless mask as she stared at Baki. You didn't tell me he was that powerful. I didn't know. I thought he was just a Jinchuriki who uses Mokuton. Baki replied. He could understand why Konoha sent the two. It was likely the blonde had only used the Kyuubi's power to make things quicker. A Wagaku will be in touch. Of course. But if you could kill those two, I'm sure my grandfather would be more than willing to stop a Konoha invasion. Uchiha and the Kyuubi's Jinchuriki. That would be a massive loss to Konoha. Baki smiled, not out of happiness. Just at what she was suggesting. He wasn't going to try that. Of course, if they were to be killed, Konoha would be forced to send an army. Konoha couldn't effectively rule this village without their army present or those two present. Suna could come with a plan to deal with them if there is no army here. And that meant that they could kill whoever the leaf is gonna to send to take charge. But Baki wasn't going to try that. At least not now. Those two were just teenagers, but they were smart and very cautious. The blonde had intentionally conducted the business the way Bee did just to see how Kuretsuki would react. That would be dangerous. It is for the sake of your freedom. Kuretsuki said, standing up. For my village and against anyone who threatens it, I do anything necessary to protect it. Naruto found Sasuke waiting for him outside, leaning against the wall with eyes closed. You enjoy showing off. Don't be jealous, Sasuke. If you had my chakra levels, you wouldn't think twice about flaunting it. Naruto paused, staring into the heavens. Besides, this is nothing compared to the Shodai Hokage. I must grow some more. Sasuke shook his head. Naruto always wanted more and more. I wish you hit the ceiling of your growth. Naruto laughed. I may have already done that, Sasuke. In terms of Mokuton, there is nothing more I can add. What I require now is battle experience. And refining my fighting style. That gives normal people a chance to catch up to you. To think there is no one who can catch up to you would be arrogance. You must always think that there is someone out there who is stronger. If you do that, your training never stops. Sasuke nodded. And then, why has your clone not returned with the message? Delaying tactics, I assume. If I had given it the Kyuubi's chakra. No, even now, I could still give it the chakra, it would have blasted past the desert in no time. But like I said, delaying things. There are other things it has to do anyway. Hidden leaf. Jiraiya narrowed his eyes seeing a black-haired man walking toward him and Kakashi. He was walking slowly, hidden under the trees. The Sannin was sitting on a branch, with Team 7 leader sitting leaning against the trunk of the tree, holding his book. Any particular reason you're here in a henge? The clone of Naruto smiled. Don't say that. Do you know how hard it was to shake off the Anbu watching me? And then having to wait until you two lost your tails. Why did you have to go that far? I was supposed to have dispelled some time ago after delivering a message. I'm certain Danzo is going to ask the same question. At which case, I dispelled at the house. That is where I lost my tail anyway. Kakashi glanced at the clone and then looked back at his book. The fact that Naruto sent a clone to Konoha meant something had happened. But if it was an emergency, the clone would have dispelled immediately after receiving orders from Danzo. How much chakra did you get to be able to travel from Suna and then still manage to stroll around? Enough. Clones still maintain a link with the original regardless of distance. Chakra can be given after a certain period. It all depends on the calculations of the original. He was speaking casually, which meant things didn't become bloody in sooner. Kakashi managed to a sigh of relief. If things went according to plan, he wouldn't have returned. The fact that both the original and Sasuke are still in Suna meant something had happened. Why? Jiraiya asked after Kakashi. What happened in Suna? If Danzo sees me, he won't be happy because there is an important message that I should have sent already, the clone said. Suna has submitted. It needed a bit of convincing. But there was no need for bloodshed. Jiraiya narrowed his eyes. If the message was important, why was the clone still hanging about? It wouldn't do so unless it had been sent with specific orders. In fact, it was surprising that Naruto had even sent a clone instead of going through the normal channels. The message would have arrived sooner. Unless he was just going this on purpose. What important message? That is actually the reason I came to talk to you. The Akatsuki took Gaara immediately after we finished fighting him, Kakashi-sensei. Given that too much time has passed, I assume that he has already lost the Bayou. The Akatsuki striking at this crucial time. Jiraiya didn't expect for the organization to strike so early. If they were making moves, he would have to leave Konoha, but he couldn't because of the Danzo situation. If the Sandaime was dead, he'd leave, but the old man was still alive. There was no telling what the Warhawk would do. He couldn't risk anything happening. You don't know for sure what they did. Indeed, if they didn't extract the Bayou, then he probably is still alive. At which case, it will be possible for us find him. But I was thinking it would be best to let them have it. We still don't know the agenda of the organization. This is a risk we should take. You are starting to make decisions, Kakashi said without looking at Naruto. On things that shouldn't be decided by you. Besides that, the risk is too great precisely because we don't know what the Akatsuki is planning, Jiraiya said sternly. But it does seem that you're doing it purposefully. For what reason, I do not know. How is the old man? The blonde asked, ignoring both Kakashi and Jiraiya's statements. It wasn't a question that the Sannin could ignore. Still the same. But there are signs that we will wake up soon. Excellent. Some good news, the clone said with a smile. You do realize this is going to spark the flames of war, right? And with that, the clone disappeared in a puff of smoke. Jiraiya turned his eyes toward Kakashi. What game is Naruto playing at? The message he was giving Danzo most likely had information about Suna. Therefore, Danzo must have also given him a message on what must be done now. The clone staying here longer delays the implementation of that order. The fact that he asked about the third's health likely means he is simply trying to delay things until he wakes up. Kakashi explained. He is more concerned about war than the Akatsuki. Jiraiya finished with a shake of his head. If Danzo finds out about this, it means he is going to try to extract the Kyuubi out of Naruto. And Naruto won't permit it. You do know that he could end up leaving Konoha at this rate. Sasuke with him, Kakashi added, a bit nonchalant about it. But Danzo won't know. And Naruto is right. Danzo hasn't been in his position for 4 days and already war looks likely. The best option to prevent war would have been Suna's complete destruction. But the fact that it surrendered means that it adds more to Konoha. Iwa is in the immediate. The Tsuchikage knows Danzo. He isn't going to just stand still. War. Another bloody war because a man who was greedy for power and had an obsessive love for Konoha had taken power. Some people really didn't deserve positions of authority. The Sandaime has to wake up. It might be too late. We have to face up to that possibility. And if war happens, Jinchuriki will be in the open. That means it becomes easy for the Akatsuki to pick him up. Kakashi said in a serious tone. You can understand why Naruto is more concerned with trying to stop a war from happening. Jiraiya hated being this powerless. He and Tsunade had led to this situation. If war broke out, it was because they failed the old man. If he had been capable, Danzo wouldn't have been Hokage. If he had been around, Minato wouldn't have died either. If Tsunade had accepted the position, none of this would be happening. The old man had to wake up soon. And Danzo had to be put in his place or else he would try to fight this in order to hold on to power. But if the old man doesn't wake up soon, it was going to be hell. The Fourth Great Shinobi World War would be fought and there was nothing he could do about it. Unless he decided to commit treason by murdering Danzo. I have a feeling Danzo is going to send me away from Konoha. The shinobi respect you. You have the respect of the villages. And your presence and Tsunade-sama's ensures that he cannot plot to take power by force. He has to fold. But Danzo has always wanted to be Hokage. He isn't going to let it slip out of his hands just after he has gotten it. Then we will have to be very careful. Keep your ears open for anything. I don't think I would want to fight fellow Leaf Shinobi. If there are whispers, we must quell them before they spark anything. Hidden sand. Naruto opened his left eye and then faced Sasuke. The Uchiha was sleeping. Sasuke. No response came. Sasuke. What? We have orders to leave sooner and go after the Akatsuki. Danzo has said that he would rather we return than not return at all, Naruto said standing up. Let's go to meet Baki. Danzo wants him in Konoha. Finally, they would be on the move. It had felt like he'd been lying about for weeks in this village. There wasn't even free movement here. Not when someone could throw a stone at him. Fighting the Akatsuki would give him some joy. He hoped they would encounter Itachi. It would make everything worth it. Even if they don't, they'll have faced some S-rank criminals and he would be able to judge just how powerful those people were. The crowd that his brother hanged with. Danzo is cruel, isn't he? You're saying that now. That man ordered us to destroy sooner if it refused to bow before him, Sasuke said with a roll of his eyes. Naruto shook his head. He opened the door to their hotel and they started walking along the passages. That isn't what I meant. He is taking out Baki from the village. There isn't someone powerful enough to take a firm lead of the sand. Whoever plots their move in his absence, will make some reckless decisions and you know what, I think that is what Danzo wants. Sasuke stared at the silent passage. The building was completely empty of other people. Why? I think it is a test to see if they can be trusted or not. If they plot something, we will be forced to destroy it, and this time with no mercy. If they don't try anything, then it will be well. He can use them. Naruto's left eye that was open sharpened dangerously. If he could kill Baki without making things a little difficult here, Danzo would do it. It would just make things easier for him. Sasuke shook his head. He watched the streets. There was apparent fear in their presence. It was like these people thought Naruto was suddenly going to transform into the Kyuubi. Fear was a powerful thing. Already, Sasuke saw the problem of ruling with fear. You had everyone bending to your will. It could be intoxicating to sadists. The power you felt when people trembled at your presence. But there are few people who were willing to die for you. Sasuke wouldn't admit it, but he would get in line of danger if it meant protecting Naruto from certain deaths. And that was because Naruto was his friend. But a man you feared. If he was going to die, you helped whatever was going to kill him. Even finishing him off, you always had to keep an eye on the back of your head. And could hardly trust anyone. Is your plan to delay things working? These people might plot something because they don't want to live in fear for the rest of their lives. We might just end up coming back here. You will. If it comes to that, that is an order I will refuse to carry out. Naruto replied sharply. You say that as if I would do that without you. Naruto smiled. We are going to get in trouble together. But we can face that trouble. Naturally. I'll leave a clone just in case. As long as it doesn't do anything, it should be fine. A clone can gather chakra anyway. Naruto replied. It means they won't do anything. They found Baki working in a tent. Paperwork overworking him like a normal cage. Nothing was happening to the cage tower. Suna must be cash-strapped. You look like you have eaten something bitter, Baki-san. Baki looked up at Naruto. The blonde always addressed him in a respectful manner. And he wasn't mocking him in any manner. Then again, unlike the Uchiha, the blonde was a lively person, at least when the situation was right. Just received a letter from the Wind Lord. Humiliated, he said. He is going to continue to do things as normal and will punish us, Baki explained in a flat tone. We'd not planned on any invasion. We had merely tried to associate with Orochimaru just to intimidate him, but he didn't budge. In the struggle for survival, the human will crawl and latch onto anything. For a cage, the pressure is to ensure that your people don't die and the village doesn't crumble. You take drastic measures just to ensure the people you lead are happy. Naruto shook his head. Not every decision is right. But as long as we live, we always try to find a way. You speak as if you have experienced this. Ha ha ha, Naruto laughed, waving his hands. Those are just meaningless words. Let me tell you a secret. My father, the Yondaime Hokage, sacrificed himself and my happiness to protect Konoha. So from a logical standpoint, I see the decisions that Kage have to make. The blonde paused and turned to Sasuke. If you want, we can go and intimidate him for you. The Uchiha offered. Why would you do that? Wrong answer. Naruto said, quick to say. But the answer is simple. If Suna is suffering now, it is still going to suffer even at the hands of Konoha. And things are only going to be worse because Danzo will most definitely try to squeeze your resources for the benefit of Konoha. The people in this village will suffer as a result. You're a kind person, aren't you? If it was someone else, you wouldn't have stopped where you did. Naruto didn't reply to Baki. What did you end up discussing with that woman? She offered Iwa's protection if we brought you two to her, dead. So is there that type of person who wants to destroy anything that may a threat to her village? No doubt, we are marked badly in her books. Prepare our bingo book ratings, Sasuke, Naruto said. I'm likely to have a better rating than you. That is because of the QB and nothing else. You don't need to be proud about it. I'll still be rated above you. Sasuke glared and then turned his sharp eyes toward Baki. We are leaving to look for Gaara and his siblings. You are to immediately travel to Konohagakure, alone. If we find them alive, the siblings will come back with us to Konoha. Will I reach Konoha? Naruto laughed at this. You think Konoha might try to eliminate you in a nice way? Well, it wouldn't be past some people. But no, you're likely to arrive to Konoha. But if I were you, I would take some precautions on my journey. And tell your people that if they try something in your absence, there will be no mercy this time. Sasuke said in a hardened tone. Let's go, Naruto. We have already been around for long enough. And I don't want to miss a battle with S-rank criminals. Naruto sighed. Well, then, pass the message and travel safely. We will try to retrieve the Sand siblings if possible. After all, they may be used as some form of legitimacy by Danzo. Awagakure. Looking at Kurotsuki, Onoki couldn't help but frown. He really didn't want a war at this stage. But the report he was getting from Konoha meant exactly that. Danzo was someone who has tried to provoke war between the two nations before. He hadn't been satisfied with how the last one ended. But more concerning was Kurotsuki's report. For her to admit she felt fear was something else. This Naruto had to be very powerful. Damn Uzumaki. And they had been well pleased to see the destruction of the whirlpools. And now years later, one of their own was going to cause them problems. It was poetic. He was just a brat nonetheless. But one that could not be ignored. I should have known there was something up with them when Hiruzen only sent just the two of them. Onoki said sternly. He'd looked normal when I saw him. He still did look normal. But his chakra output is just beyond anyone I have ever met. He really is an enemy of Awagakure. If it wasn't because it would have started war, I would have tried to kill him myself. Onoki sighed. Only Kurotsuki would admit being afraid of a person then talk about trying to kill that very same person. You wouldn't say that if you saw the report I was reading. What? That brat along with the Uchiha killed Orochimaru, a Sannin. And Naruto is the son of Konoha's Yellow Flash. What? Onoki leaned back. There was no telling how things would go or if the blonde knew the jutsu of his father. Not that he needed it. He was a user of the rare and powerful Mokuton. And held the most powerful Beiyu in existence. That alone made him a dangerous opponent. Worse, if what Kurotsuki was saying was true, he most likely didn't need to turn into the powers of his Beiyu. Hashirama had been able to capture all other Beiyu because of Mokuton. If the blonde could use it in the same manner, then there was that danger. Doesn't change anything unless he can move like his father. Onoki managed to be nonchalant about it. The problem is Danzo. We may not have any other choice but to go to war. I offered Suna protection or help if they could kill those two. Not going to happen. Onoki smiled. But I like the idea. The blame would have been pinned on Suna. Which means Konoha would have been forced to settle for its destruction. It however won't happen. But what are we going to do? Just make sure Konoha doesn't send its forces into Suna. Konoha has also just survived an invasion. I doubt it wants to go to war so soon. The village has been losing its shinobi over the years. Recent tragedies have made things better for other great nations. With the Uchiha, Konoha was always a dangerous opponent. Then you add the yellow flash. But it has lost all that since the Third War. And now with Hiruzen stricken, it isn't in the best situation to fight. But it is unlikely that it will try to relinquish control over Suna. Unless we try to get the Raikage involved. Likely won't care. But knowing Danzo, if he manages to get a grip on Suna and builds it, he is going to war. A journey that only stopped when he needed to take breaks, but finally, Baki had reached Konohagakure. You wouldn't think it had been invaded a couple of days ago. And as expected, his presence wasn't welcomed. But they had many reasons to celebrate. They pulled through. Orochimaru was dead. Suna had surrendered. And now they lived with the knowledge that they could have another yellow flash as Minato's son lived. It has truly shocked him to learn of this. But Baki was certain, Naruto didn't know his father's jutsu. Perhaps the possibility that he might know was what Konoha was going to use to make others pause in any action against the leaf. He didn't get to wander for too long in the village as he was taken by Anbu to the Hokage's office. To await Suna's judgment. His judgment. How he wished the Sandaime was sitting behind the desk. The old man would have been merciful. But this man was unforgiving. He'd already dished out the worst punishment possible. Hokage-sama, Baki bowed to his new lord. It was gut-wrenching. Bitter moment, but he had to go through it. Sit down. Danzo ordered. Hi. Danzo stared at the man coldly. He considered his options. What did he do with this man? Making him disappear would be easy. But his main problem was any other village that may try to interfere with his plans. What is the situation in Suna? I want to hear your assessment before deciding on what to do. River country. Gaara stared at his hands, wondering why he was still alive, after all this time. After everything he has done. And why of all people, Kankuro had to be the one dead. It was just a scroll, but with a body sealed within it. He should have been the to die. He wasn't even a Jinchuriki anymore, and yet for some reason, he could still control sand. It was supposed to be an ability given to him by hosting that loud Bayu, but apparently not. He glanced at Temari, she looked down. She was the elder one. They'd lost their father. Not that he ever was a father in the true sense of the word. But they lost him. And now Kankuro. They'd already lost their mother. When was their misery going to end? He was in no hurry to return to Suna. The people didn't like him. And with the invasion ending in failure, Suna was surely in a bad state. Perhaps he should be rushing there to try to make up for his mistakes. But Gaara wanted to free his mind first. To think clearly about what he was going to do next and his own future. What do you think is happening in Suna? He asked in a quiet tone. They hadn't talked much about Kankuro. Just that he died of poison in the hands of Sasori. Temari shook her head. They are most likely planning on how to move ahead with the failure. He had failed as well. He didn't do much. He was defeated. His first defeat. But it happened. And Konoha was unlikely to just let them go after betraying the village and working with Orochimaru. They too were tricked, but it didn't change the fact that Suna Shinobi invaded the leaf. He glanced to the side, and then stood up. There are two people coming and fast. Gaara said. Temari stood up as well, got hold of her fan. Enemy. They are coming to us. A minute later, both Naruto and Sasuke landed a distance away from the two siblings. They were close to a stream of water. The river country was like this. A country with lots of water. Temari tensed seeing Naruto. She couldn't forget how he watched her before she attacked. It was like he was plotting something. There had been an expressionless face, but now there was a smile. And this was bad. They must be here to try to get him to Konoha to face the music. You're still alive. I did right by letting you live. You'd been killed in Konoha, Naruto said, his eyes turning to Gaara. And you're no longer a Jinchuriki. We are late, Sasuke. Wasn't it your plan? Now, there is no need to glare at me like that. I'm sure we will get another chance to face the Akatsuki. We just have to accept that we lost this one. These two appear to be relaxing and didn't look like they were in a hurry. It just meant that the Akatsuki was done with Gaara, but wasn't he supposed to be dead? Not today. You'll get your chance, Naruto said, focusing on Gaara. He took a step forward and saw their tension. He smiled, waving his right hand. We are not here to fight you. We were hoping to save you from the Akatsuki. Temari loosened her grip on her fan and then settled down. Gaara did the same. but neither said anything to the Konoha shinobi. The mood is a little gloomy here. How are you alive if the Akatsuki extracted Shukaku from you? Gaara faced him and then stared down. I did die. A jutsu saved my life. A life for a life. Naruto tilted his head slightly. It didn't seem that Gaara was lying. Actually, he seemed burdened by that reality. There was still one person missing and that was their brother. Was he the reason the two looked sad? Naruto intentionally chose not to ask about it. Tell me what happened. Gaara explained and then Naruto closed his eyes to face the Kyuubi. The Beiyu pretended as if he wasn't there. After a couple of moments, Naruto finally spoke in a flat tone. I'm a Jinchuriki, so I know you are not just a mindless beast of unlimited chakra. I know you are alive and with intelligence. I know you've been alive for a longer period. And more before the founding of shinobi villages. So you know more about human history than history books can teach. After all, history tends to be altered to suit the narrative of who writes it. Now, there is an organization that is hunting down Beiyu and sealing them in a statue. And the person leading this is a man who uses a ripple pattern form of eyes. That can only be the Rinnegan. I'll admit, I'm ignorant about the Sage of Six Paths. But those eyes are associated with him. If such a man existed, then you surely know of such a man. Now tell me, do you know why the Akatsuki might want to collect all 9 Beiyu? Gaara says there are eyes. After the sealing one closed. Do you know anything? No. I will come and ask again, Kyuubi. Perhaps you'll be willing to talk after they collected the other 8 and it is just your 9 tails remaining. Kurama opened his eyes and stared at the blonde. A curious human being. To think he would come to him to ask about why the Beiyu were being sealed. Perhaps it was the logical thing to do. After all, it was true that he has been alive for a long time. You say that, but like all humans, you continue to demand for my power. Naruto waved his right hand. Don't be like that. I use your power because it is needed. It would be stupid for me to host you and not use your power. I know my mother's seal wasn't the best for comfort. I studied its structure. You were basically tied down. Here you have freedom. You are not even locked up anymore. Your power, I will use as long as you remain in me. Whether I am the same as everyone is for you to judge. Kurama had no reason to tell Naruto anything and he wasn't going to do so. Answer, he closed his eyes once more and then felt the blonde leave him in peace. Naruto looked between Gaara and Temari and then released a long breath. He has to dive into this subject. He wanted to top-toe around it because it would make things uncomfortable. You lost your brother. I offer my condolences. How did he die? Poison. Sasori poisoned him. Ah, another of those matters. If I had known, we would have definitely come earlier. Konoha has the best medic nin. They would have surely worked on him. Actions have consequences. The decisions you took affect the flow of things in the other people's lives. In any case, you have to go to Konoha. Baki is already there and should be waiting for you. Naruto turned to Sasuke. Do we go with them or do we look for the Akatsuki? Can you track them? Naruto shook his head. Then there is no need to waste our time. Let us just go back to Konoha. Has been tiring anyway. Naruto nodded. Could they not track down the culprits? No. With what Gaara had said, there was a chance there were more than 2. If they did manage to track them down, it was going to be a problem. He wasn't sure it was a situation where he could escape intact. To have the power of the Kyuubi didn't mean he was all-powerful. The fact that these people were resolved to fight Jinchuriki meant they had confidence in their powers. Searching was not worth the risk. He glanced at Temari. She looked miserable. He couldn't emphasize. He didn't know that feeling of losing someone you loved. These two had not only lost their brother, but their father as well. And hell only awaited them in Suna. If the Sandaime doesn't wake, of course. He noticed something with her body structure and then took a couple of steps toward her. In his presence, she tensed. He leaned closer and whispered to her right ear. If I had known letting you leave was just going to buy you a couple of days, I would have stopped you. You nonetheless have my sympathies. Spend the time you have left with your brother. Maybe for you, death is good. There are many things better than death. Konoha lacks wind uses. You'd be used to breed wind uses for the leaf. Well, maybe you can still live to see another day. That is, if you hurry to the leaf. You don't want to let your brother live by himself, do you? He straightened up and faced Sasuke. Let's catch a breath for an hour. Besides, I'm feeling a little hungry, he said, turning away from the sand siblings to face the water. You think we can get some fish there? Danzo stared at both Naruto and Sasuke with a look of anger. They didn't face the Akatsuki. And they didn't send him a message that Iwa had appeared. He could have handled that situation differently. He could have organized for those people to be killed by someone from another village. Kumo or even Kiri. But they hadn't sent him a report. It was a deliberate action. And that meant that Onoki has had time to ponder on the matter than he did. He hadn't thought that the Sandaime Tsuchikage would act so quickly. It didn't matter that it had been on Suna's urging, the fact was that they took the bait and had thrown themselves into the mix. There could be war in the horizon. Danzo wouldn't have a problem with it. He still wanted Iwa to pay for the many lives it took in the Third Shinobi War, but this wasn't the right time. Suna wasn't in a state to go to war. Neither was Konoha. Even if they won, they would end up being crippled to the point where they couldn't defend both Suna and their own village. Kumo would no doubt strike. Why did you take it upon yourselves not to send me a message regarding the appearance of the Tsuchikage's granddaughter? Naruto produced a scroll and put it on the desk. It wasn't that such a scenario didn't play out in his thoughts. It would have been careless and stupid of him. The report is in there as well as a detailed review on my interaction with her. Baki must have already informed you of his conversation with her. We put him in the meeting to act as a witness. His senses could have been easily manipulated by genjutsu, Danzo replied. If Sasuke was anything like his brother, such a thing was possible. Unfortunately, my powers haven't reached that level. Sasuke replied in a flat tone. Indeed, if what I hear is anything to go by, Sasuke's genjutsu prowess is nothing compared to that of Itachi, Naruto added calmly, earning a glare from the Uchiha. Was that even necessary? I'm trying to prove a point and help our case here. You do know that this can be blamed on you. You're the one with a higher ranking after all. Bastard. I shouldn't have let you do as you pleased. I'm going to put you on a tight leash next time. Now, there is no need for such an extreme action. Besides, if you're worried about Itachi's genjutsu, you needn't worry about it. You also have the Mangekyo, you can counter it. Enough, Danzo shouted. Teaming this too may have been a mistake on his part. No, he couldn't have them getting along like this. It only made them stronger. They got along quite well that they couldn't be used to off-balance the other. You have not answered my question. When she came, we decided to deal with it quickly and send her away from the village. If she had stayed longer, she would have seen the state of Suna, which I'm certain that isn't something you want a Wagakure to know. A reasonable argument. At this point, Suna wasn't worth defending. But Danzo wasn't willing to let Iwa have it. If the stone chose to send shinobi for it, Danzo was going to opt to have the village destroyed. It would stop Iwa from going to war with them, for the moment that is. He tapped his finger on the desk and then asked. And my other concern? It was a precaution we took. There is no telling a message would have arrived. Suna is still in control of itself. If we had used its resources, there was no telling they wouldn't intercept the message and put their own, which would have resulted in the wrong message being sent and us getting the wrong message. That was a risk too great for us to take. No doubt, Suna would try all means to wrestle its way out of the situation using all sneaky methods it could. Naruto was right. Without Konoha forces stationed in Suna, they had no real control. Suna could do anything. He had to try something soon before they could organize themselves. But it didn't mean that the two didn't have a hidden agenda. They just weren't going to tell it to him. But he would find out. Fine. I will oversee the report and then see what must be done. As for the Akatsuki, it is concerning. For now, Naruto, you will be confined in the village, and if you are to move, you will do so discreetly. Danzo then turned to face Sasuke. Leave us, I wish to speak with Sasuke alone. Hi. Naruto nodded and left the office by the door. Danzo knew the blonde would be waiting outside, but he wasn't concerned with it. It is obvious to me that you were following Naruto's lead in this case. Saying this earned him a sharp glare. Don't mistake anything. I let Naruto do what was done because he was suitable. Don't think he can order me around. Danzo took it as pride talking. But he was fine with that. In fact, he was happy the Uchiha reacted in such a manner. I understand that it is still your mission to kill Itachi. Hiruzen had been stalling because he was using Itachi for information on the Akatsuki. While still a criminal, when the threat of the Akatsuki came up, in exchange for information on the organization, Hiruzen promised Itachi that Konoha would not hunt him down. Danzo paused, trying to see the reaction in Sasuke's face. Why would the Sandaime do something like that? He isn't concerned about avenging the Uchiha clan. The Akatsuki is after Jinchuriki, and that means Naruto will be targeted. He only wants to protect Naruto, no matter the cost. Why would Itachi be concerned about being hunted by Konoha? It wasn't like that was something which would bother him. Do you know where he is? I'll find out in the next couple of days. I'll hear from you then. Like you, I want Itachi to be gone. He is an enemy of the leaf and his actions cannot be forgiven. I will spare no effort to ensure we find him. You will have my thanks then. Danzo watched Sasuke leave. The Uchiha was easy. All you needed was to dangle Itachi in front of him and he would take the bait. Sasuke found Naruto waiting for him, but he didn't say anything until they had left the tower. The streets welcomed them. Unlike in Suna, there were nods of respect, even to Naruto. But the blonde didn't seem to be enjoying it, even though he reacted kindly to it. What did Danzo want? Shouldn't you be happy? Sasuke asked instead. My life is hell. Word is starting to spread that my Minato was my father. My actions in the invasion makes things slightly better, but I'm not looking at a happy life. Being used as a weapon, huh? Sasuke stared ahead. Rebuilding was being done quickly. As what you would expect from the leaf. We are both under the role. Yeah. Naruto nodded quietly. Itachi, he said something about the Sandaime being in contact with Itachi but not telling me anything because he is too concerned with trying to get information about the Akatsuki. Hearing this, Naruto laughed. He was surprised the Warhawk hadn't gone right to ask Sasuke if he could manipulate him with the Sharingan. Perhaps Danzo didn't want to use his eye. Then again, from what Itachi said, the power couldn't be used over and over again. You had one use and then it took some time to recover. But this was so like someone who wanted to drive a wedge between Sasuke and the Sandaime. A countermeasure in case the third woke up. Perhaps he wanted Sasuke's support. Most definitely, if Sasuke took the side of Danzo, they would clash. Naruto was always going to stick with the old man. I suppose our friendship will be tested in the coming days, Sasuke. For Danzo, it is a problem that the two of us get along. Naruto looked thoughtful. Perhaps we should keep some distance. Don't be ridiculous. Naruto laughed. Well, I suppose because I'm your only friend, you won't have anyone to talk to. Worry not, this friend will not abandon you to loneliness, he smiled fondly. But now, I need to go into hiding and get some rest. It felt like Jiraiya had been in the leaf for months. It was the first time he stayed in the village and felt as if he had been here longer than usual. His appearances were usually visits. But now he wasn't planning on going anywhere. But given that someone came over, it was likely he would have to depart soon. I may have to depart. With the old man out, Tsunade asked, putting her cup down. They were drinking at the back of her house, as they usually did these days. Yes. Jiraiya nodded. It appears that the Akatsuki are attacking from the first until the last. One of Danzo's people came to tell me that they are going to check on a location in which the Three Tails was rumored to be. If they find it, I'll have to be there to help them seal it. This will be done secretly to ensure the Akatsuki don't know about it. Thinking about Naruto, we do need to give them a fighting chance. But I won't move until Sensei has improved. Tsunade nodded. Thinking of the old man, she said, it really is the hope that kills, huh? Tsunade-sama, the Sandaime. Shizune said after bursting through the back door. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.